In a striking display of Europe's commitment to enforcing sanctions on Moscow, French military forces reportedly boarded an oil tanker in the Mediterranean that was suspected of involvement in the shadow trade of Russian oil, according to multiple media reports. The operation underscores both the determination and the difficulties faced by European authorities as they seek to cut off financial lifelines to the Kremlin amid the ongoing war in Ukraine. The incident, according to sources familiar with the matter, the boarding took place in international waters in the Mediterranean Sea earlier this week. The vessel, flagged under a non-EU nation, was intercepted after intelligence suggested it was part of a complex network of ships attempting to disguise the origin of crude linked to Russia. French naval personnel reportedly conducted an inspection to determine whether the tanker was violating EU sanctions on Russian energy exports. The French Ministry of Armed Forces has not yet issued a detailed public statement, but security officials in Paris confirmed that the boarding was part of routine maritime security and sanctions enforcement operations. Reports suggest the tanker may have engaged in practices such as ship-to-ship transfers, falsification of cargo documentation, or concealing automatic identification system (ICE) signals, techniques that have become increasingly common as Russia attempts to bypass Western restrictions. Context of the crackdown. Since the European Union imposed a partial embargo on Russian oil in 2022, enforcement at sea has become a crucial battleground. The Kremlin has been accused of relying on a shadow fleet of aging tankers, many operating under flags of convenience, to transport crude and refined products to markets in Asia, Africa, and even parts of Europe through intermediaries. France, along with other NATO members, has increased its naval patrols across the Mediterranean and Atlantic routes to disrupt this trade. These measures are not only about sanction enforcement but also about maritime safety, as many of the shadow fleet vessels are poorly maintained, raising risks of oil spills and environmental disasters. Why it matters. The operation highlights Europe's dual challenge, enforcing sanctions rigorously while avoiding escalation at sea. The interception of a foreign-flagged tanker risks diplomatic tensions, particularly with countries that maintain trade relations with Russia or provide cover for its fleet. Analysts say France's decision to intervene directly demonstrates a growing impatience with the persistence of sanctions evasion schemes. This is as much about deterrence as it is about enforcement, said one European energy security expert quoted in French media. By boarding tankers suspected of helping Russia, France is sending a message that these activities will not go unchecked. Economic and political implications. For Russia, energy exports remain a critical source of revenue despite Western sanctions. The International Energy Agency estimates that Russia still earns billions of dollars monthly from oil sales, with discounted shipments finding eager buyers in countries like India and China. However, the added scrutiny from European militaries could raise shipping costs, insurance rates, and risks for companies involved in sanction busting. For France and its EU partners, strict enforcement is also about credibility. Leaders in Brussels have repeatedly promised that sanctions will not only be symbolic but will have real bite. Naval operations such as this boarding are designed to show that Europe is willing to act, even outside its territorial waters, to prevent violations. Broader geopolitical picture. The Mediterranean has become a key choke point in the struggle over energy flows. Tankers moving from Russia's Black Sea ports or via intermediaries in the Middle East often transit through this region. With conflicts in Ukraine and the Middle East creating overlapping crises, France's move reflects the growing securitization of energy trade routes. Some analysts warn, however, that such operations could create friction with neutral states or spark legal disputes under international maritime law. If the tanker is ultimately cleared of wrongdoing, questions could arise over whether France overstepped its authority. Yet, supporters argue that without aggressive monitoring, sanctions risk becoming toothless. Conclusion. The French military's reported boarding of a suspected Russian-linked oil tanker is both a practical enforcement step and a symbolic gesture in the wider sanctions battle. It demonstrates Europe's readiness to move beyond paperwork-based oversight to active, military-backed operations at sea. While the long-term impact on Russia's oil revenues remains uncertain, the incident signals that European powers are tightening the net around Moscow's shadow energy trade. As global energy markets adjust and geopolitical tensions mount, such confrontations at sea may become more frequent. For now, France's bold move has added a new dimension to the sanctions campaign, raising the stakes not only for Russia but also for the murky network of intermediaries who enable its oil exports.